as usual, we'll get started here in just a couple of minutes as folks are coming on. Okay. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, everyone. Welcome to our ASABE member hour entitled Engaging Our Membership, which Advancing Circular Bioeconomy Systems. I'm Chuck Roth, and I'll be our host for the day. As a background, ASABE member hours were started as a mechanism for our members to learn, connect, and grow. In just a minute, we'll get things rolling, but a few ground rules for starters. For today's hour, please keep your audio on mute during the presentation. If you do have questions, you can either place them in the chat during the presentation, or we'll open it up for verbal questions in the Q&A segment. If you do place them in the chat, I'll try to scroll through them afterwards so that we can get those answered for you as well. As you noticed when you came in, the meeting is recorded, and we will have that available for viewing later on through the ASABE website. Today, we'll be hearing from Dr. Alicia Modenbach. She is a lecturer in the Department of Biosystems and Agricultural Engineering at the University of Kentucky, and has played an essential role in advancing the Circular Bioeconomy Systems initiative that was launched by ASABE. As an active member of the ASABE Transitioning Food and Agriculture to Circular Systems Task Force, Alicia leads a working group responsible for developing activities to engage the society's membership in the CBS initiative. In addition, Alicia is also taking care of coordinating program development and planning of a one-day CBS event to be held in conjunction with ASABE's 2023 annual international meeting that'll be held in July of this year. This endeavor has allowed her to reconnect with her academic interests in engineering biological processes to reduce or to redirect underutilized or recovered resources as she fosters member engagement in sustainable circular bioeconomy systems. Today, Alicia is going to provide a comprehensive update on the efforts of ASABE members in advancing circular bioeconomy systems and give insight into that CBS mini symposium day that'll be held as part of the 2023 international meeting in Omaha. Additionally, she will share the latest developments on new workshops and opportunities for you as an ASABE member or not yet a member to get involved in circular bioeconomy systems. Also of note, she'll be speaking a little bit about some future member hour webinars that are dedicated to CBS and how we can explore that further. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Modenbach, and the floor is yours, Alicia.
Great, thanks Chuck for that introduction. As Chuck said, my name is Alicia Modenbach, and I'll be kicking off the next member hour series on circular bioeconomy systems. So today I'm going to discuss some of the work that we've been doing to advance ASABE's Circular Bioeconomy Systems Initiative and how we're hoping to continue engaging our membership in this particular initiative. So to give you an overview of what we'll be discussing today, I'm going to start by talking about how circular bioeconomy systems, which I'll refer to as CBS here, how this initiative began in ASABE and how it aligns with the work of so many of our society's membership. Some of the challenges that we face and the motivation for this initiative, some of the work that is currently underway to engage our membership, and then finish up with a preview of some upcoming plans for the CBS initiative. So what is our motivation for all this? So what are the challenges that we're facing as a society? We're in a time of unprecedented growth in our global population. We just passed the 8 billion mark about 5 months ago in November of 22, right? That represents about a 70% increase in global population just in my lifetime. And projections indicate that we will reach 10 billion by 2060. So that means we're going to see a greater demand on food, on water, on energy, and on natural resources. And it's pretty clear that our actions have impacted and will continue to impact the climate, right? The IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, predicts that our actions could likely contribute up to a 4.5 degree increase in global temperatures by the year 2100. Depending on how we address climate change now, and as our population grows, continue to put pressures on our resources, we'll continue to see more, intense weather events from this climate change. Things like droughts, flooding, which could lead to the displacement of the people who live in those particular areas, which can then lead to have dire effects on health and well-being of our population and impacts on our food and ag systems, thus further compounding this whole issue. So as our population increases, we will also have more urbanization. It's anticipated that we will have nearly 70% of the global population living in an urban area by 2050. And we know that urban areas have their own impacts on the climate, right? We know that urbanization can exacerbate the difference in extreme temperatures that we observe. Urbanization can lead to increased precipitation over that area, leading to more intense runoff, especially as more impervious surfaces are built to accommodate the growing numbers of people migrating to those areas. So based on these scenarios constructed by the IPCC, if we look at this chart at the bottom of the middle figure here, so I was born in the 80s. So if we look at this scenario here, so in my lifetime, right, as we approach 2050, we could potentially see 1.5 to 2 degree increase in temperatures over that temperature from 1900 that we use as our baseline, possibly even more if we continue with very high emissions. Right? Now, my kids, who were born just before 2020, looking at this top situation here, what kind of world will we leave them with if we continue on our current path? What will they experience in their lifetimes? They could very well be at that 4+ degree prediction indicated here. So again, I pose the question, what are we going to do about that? How are we going to change our actions to reduce these impacts that we're having? So we also know that these societal changes or challenges will lead to increased pressure on our food and ag systems. More people means increasing demand on food production. Some of the challenges we face in terms of our food and agricultural systems is that agriculture already uses half of the inhabitable arable land and over half of the available fresh water. And we will continue to be limited in that availability of natural resources needed to increase that production. Our systems tend to be incredibly vulnerable to climate change and epidemics, pandemics, as we've seen. So any other sort of outbreak that could potentially pose a human health risk. So we really need to look into more robust and resilient systems so that our production is not disrupted. We also recognize that we need to be better about recovering food waste. So currently, 30 to 50% of food waste is discarded in landfills. With that food we discard, we're also discarding the resources, the water, the energy, the nutrients that we put into producing that food in the first place. And then the increased demand on production can also lead to the degradation of our water, soil, atmosphere, our ecosystem health. So again, what are we going to do about that? What can we as engineers and others working in areas related to our food and agricultural systems do to address these specific issues. So I want to take a step back for just a minute. Many of you on this call may already be familiar with this terminology, but in case some of us aren't, I wanted to include a few definitions here that we work from on this task force. So the linear economy is very much like what we have now. It's the economic space where the value of the products, the materials, the resources consumed is maintained in the economy for a very short period of time. And tends to generate a substantial amount of waste, both from the production process itself and then the disposal of the product at the end, excuse me, at the end of its useful life. A circular economy, on the other hand, which is one step closer to what we're interested in achieving, it's the economic space where the value of products and materials and resources is maintained within the economy for as long as possible, where resources may be recycled or reused at the end of a product's useful life and then transformed into something else that is still useful and still valuable. So currently we are very much in this take, make, waste situation. And we want to move towards the make, use, recycle scenario. Just a couple more definitions before we move on. So the bioeconomy, well, so we've already talked about linear and circular economies, right? Those are more about the path that the resources travel. The bioeconomy is more concerned with the type of resources used. So the bioeconomy is the economic space centered on the use and production of bio-based materials. So we're talking about producing renewable materials and resources from agriculture, from forestry, from aquaculture, and then the conversion of those resources, including the waste streams from these production systems into value-added products. So products like food, feed, bioenergy, bio-based products. And ultimately, what we'd like to see is a shift from a linear fossil-based economy to a circular bioeconomy, right? If we consider our current practices, our processes tend to be very linear, very siloed, and we have our environment. We pull resources that we need from that environment. We might have a business model that we put on top of that product we're producing, and then we push it out to consumers where they can enjoy that product and its limited product lifespan, right? So taking a look at this figure here from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, if we essentially follow that straight path down the center column, that is our linear economy. We take our finite resources, we manufacture parts, we assemble the product, pass it out to the consumer, where it's used until it's discarded. But what